Today for you, I have Asma Elhuni. She's the national organizer for H.E.A.L Together. Thank you so much for joining us, Asma.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so I know we're having this conversation before the vote is coming down in terms of the confirmation for the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and that having her on the US Supreme Court would be such just an incredibly historic moment, being the first Black woman, but also given her pedigree, her background, all of her experience, that she would truly make a game-changing kind of contribution. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, we're super excited about this opportunity for our nation. And I think what we're seeing right now also is this attack on a Black woman using the national attack that is happening all across the nation against CRT. And we're seeing that she is being attacked the very same way. But we still have a lot of hope, and we think that having her confirmed is just going to be another proof that as a nation, we still want progress despite the very loud voices on the opposition.
Yes, I love that you speak like that in terms of having her confirmed, because I know I've been talking about Justice Brown Jackson for some time now. So I'd like to hold on to that and hope that by the time that this airs, we will have confirmation that we would have this historic and just game-changing moment that we can all celebrate. And I know that a lot of people really look up to her and revere her in terms of the diversity she brings to the bench in terms of her public school background. And that's something that is very important to you and your organization. Please do tell us more.
Yeah, thank you. And so Race Forward was founded in 1981, and its mission was to advance racial justice through institutions, policy, and also working with communities on the ground. But in the summer of 2020, we all witnessed the murder of George Floyd, and we saw the protests across the country, and we saw this public interest in trying to understand and address racism. And so not just between people, but also institutionally, in that it really does still exist very much in our country. So what we've seen is this backlash, which is not a new backlash. We've seen this occur even in history. Whenever there was major progress around racial justice, we saw people come out and really try to bring back the progress. And so we saw that in the first Reconstruction, when we freed people who were enslaved, and of course only technically, people weren't really free. We saw it again. We saw that backlash. We saw it again in the second Reconstruction with the Civil Rights era, when we made progress around racial justice, and again that backlash. And now we're seeing this happen again in what Reverend William Barber calls the third Reconstruction, the time that we are currently in. And this is the response that they are using, right? And some of the people are literally calling this the largest civil rights protest after the George Floyd murder. And so this is the backlash that we are now currently seeing. And the boogeyman is CRT. And the center of location of all these attacks is public education. So H.E.A.L started in this year, basically, to try to respond to the attacks on public education and also the attacks on CRT.
Yes, and that's a very powerful and important thing that needs to be addressed, because we've seen the attacks on the public school system as a result of people fearing integration. We've seen when there's any kind of advancement in terms of Black people in our society, we've seen society try to push the pendulum back. Generally, largely those in power and the white community come forward and ends up holding everyone back in toto. And so we're seeing that with the public school system. And we know that there are a lot of things that could make their way up to the Supreme Court, as well as those things that are pending. And one thing about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is that her record really shows that true commitment to equal justice for all. And that's something that can be extremely powerful, especially when you are dictating the laws and the interpretation of the laws that will govern so much of our society. How does your organization approach her kind of, open-mindedness when it comes to equal justice for everyone, as opposed to just for the wealthy and privileged?
Thank you for mentioning the wealthy and the privileged. Yeah, I think it's really important to really pull back the curtains and really understand what's really happening in our nation. So we have people that are benefiting from this divide, from this racism, from this fear of Black community, from the fear of the Mexicans, from the fear of the Muslims, and those who have the most to gain from this divide and the most to lose from change and progress are the elites. And we know that Christopher Rufo, who's doing the elites' bidding, right? He was kind of the one who really pushed the anti-CRT. And so what we know is that CRT is basically just a legal framework for understanding how racism manifests in our society. But what we're seeing is now it's become this, the meaning has changed to mean anti-white or anti-American. And that's just like if we want to talk about history, we're anti-American. If we want to talk about our bad history, that is. And if we want to talk about racism, we're anti-white. And so basically, this is an attempt by the elite to really continue this divide. And the location of schools is very intentional because these same people that are attacking our school system are the same people that don't want to promote racial justice. And it's the same people that are trying to take our school systems and privatize them. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is so that they can make money off of our school systems, right? And so we need to get together. We need to oppose this. We need to organize around this to make sure that they do not win, and that we know that we are not each other's enemies, and the enemies is actually the 1% and the corporate America, the elites.
Absolutely, because if they can keep us busy fighting over racism, over sexism, and all the other forms of oppression, they can continue to pick our pockets and work us into the ground. And that's something we see way too often when it comes to the social inequities. So I do think that there's something very powerful when it comes to, hopefully, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And the fact that she's a consensus builder in terms of bringing people together, understanding how the law really impacts people's lives and what real people and their lives actually look like, as opposed to having grown up in a very secluded, isolated bubble or on some kind of ivory tower. And so having that real life assessment out there is something that you'd want of someone who's interpreting the laws. And so I guess what your organization is doing in order to get this change across the board when it comes to having people in positions of power who recognize the systems of oppression are actually working to dismantle them.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, H.E.A.L is trying to organize communities. They have money power and we have people power. And so what we're doing is offering communities a way to organize themselves. And so what we have is we have a toolkit that people can use to organize their communities and see how they can start building around these attacks on CRT, but also strong public education to promote strong, honest, accurate public education. We also have other ways of getting involved, signing our pledge. And then we also have trainings to help community members both understand what's happening through education and also skill building. And so those are different ways. So definitely go to our website and get involved if you can. We definitely want people to understand that they have the power to take back our communities, but not go back to where we were, but to actually promote a better community.
Yes, and definitely moving forward is something that we all need to do, but we need to do it in a better context and in a better way so that we don't end up repeating a lot of the ill-fated decisions and the outcomes that we've seen from generations before. And that's something I think that a lot of people would like to move toward, but unfortunately, a lot of our society is still stuck in the past where the power was concentrated within certain groups. And so in terms of the work that you do, is there anything coming up that you'd want people to know about?
Yes, we have a training coming up that we hope people can plug into if you go to our website. And so this training is one among many other trainings that will help people better understand how they can organize their communities against these attacks.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And can you also tell the viewers where they can find out more information about you or follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can find more information at www.healtogether.org.
Fantastic, thank you so much for joining us. That's Asma Elhuni, national organizer for H.E.A.L Together.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.